I'm telling you, it's beautiful. You got to go.
Is it safe?
Totally safe. And the ruins are genuinely breathtaking.
You'll no live to see another day.
Well, then, Bagger and Bagora.
Oh, God, you're doing the voices all wrong. Eli, give him wrong foot forward. You're sword fighting, not boxing. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Oh, hey, guys. What's up?
Oh, no. We're just getting ready for this week's episode. We're talking about Boudica's rebellion, so I figured we'd just try to make everything authentic, you know?
I see. That explains costuming. And I'm sorry, does it seem dirty in here to anyone else?
Oh, trust me, Noah. We went all out with authenticity here.
Yeah, that is apparent. The smell is really overpowering.
Yeah, look, man, I'm refusing to half-ass it here. Boudica didn't live like us. She didn't have a shower or a Swiffer or toilet paper.
Cecil's been making you guys wipe with your hands, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
I kind of like it.
Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts. Just said it normal, nailed it. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Heath Enright, and I'll be leading the charge this week, but I won't be charging alone. First up, the people that Eli paid me $20 to introduce as best friends, Cecil and Eli.
Yay! I can't be friends with a Jean-Benet Ramsey truther. It's just not going to happen.
Okay, I am sorry that you're afraid of the truth, Cecil, but I will not be silent.
And also joining us tonight are two men who can't summon the enthusiasm required to be nihilists, Tom and Noah.
It's too much effort not to care all the time.
Right? You know what they say about nihilism? Fucking exhausting.
And before we get started, I want to thank all the patrons over at patreon.com who keep this show running. If you're feeling generous, be sure to stick around till the end of the show, and we'll tell you how to give us money and get rid of all the guilt you must be feeling at this exact moment as you contribute to the free rider effect, because you're a moocher.
Oh,
and with that out of the way, tell us, Tom, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
I am glad I get to be the first one to take a shot at pronouncing this. Tonight we'll be talking about Brexit 1.0, also known as Boudica's Rebellion. Revolution.
See, and here it was. I thought Boudica was what you were having trouble with.
I thought Boudica was going to be what I stumbled over. Hit that right on the first try, first take.
Rebellion, you're looking for, yeah. You're close. You're close. And Noah, you read the article about Boudica's Rebellion. Are you ready to play Bard for us?
I am, but I am not doing the thous and thys no matter how many times Cecil copies them into my notes. Cecil.
I wrote some of this.
All right, so who was Boudica and what was she rebelling against?
God damn it, guys. Boudica was a Celtic queen, Heath, and she was rebelling against a lot of things. The glass ceiling on Celtic royalty, the status quo, the historical image of women as weak and helpless, and, most notably, the Romans that raped her daughters in a public square while she watched.
Oh, my God. This political correctness trend has gone too far. Women are taking offense at every little gang rape.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry, guys.
Okay. Just going to leave a little distance between the
Yeah, leave that spot for the edit. Whatever you do.
Okay, so I noticed you said the Romans raped her daughters, so this is pre-Catholicism?
Good call. It is, actually, yeah. She was the queen of the Iceni tribe of British Celts around 60 CE, and notice I didn't say through anything there. She wasn't queen from 60 CE to, like, some other year or anything, so don't expect a happy ending on this one.
Well, the story started out on such an uptick with all the rapes and all, so I'm really glad with that last statement that you're reining us in. No, I'm glad.
Jesus.
I feel like you shouldn't expect the happy ending unless you put the money on the table where they can see it.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'm just trying to imagine how anyone's going to hear Noah's voice and assume something cheerful was going to happen. Really?
Okay, well, obviously you don't have a Pavlovian drooling response to bong bells and Noah's beautiful, dulcet baritone voice.
Noah, I've actually been meaning to talk to you about that. We probably shouldn't feed Heath every time you talk for a lot of reasons.
I've been saying you've been saying that forever, and look how well it's worked out for me today, Eli. See, I told you eventually it would be important.
There's a system. We're sticking with it.
Maybe just not bowls of jelly. Maybe just not bowls
Absolutely
of jelly.
not. That's locked in. Whatever.
So, no, I should note here that Boudica is considered a British folk hero, or more accurately, several British folk heroes, because nobody can agree on her fucking name. So before you email me and tell me I'm pronouncing it wrong, everyone pronounces it differently, all right? I'm going to be using Boudica for the purposes of this episode, but you'll also hear Boudica and Boudica and Boudica and Boudica and Boudicia and Voadicia and the Warrior Queen. So,
all right. Well, if she's a folk hero, are you saying we're going to be relying on folk tales for the sources?
I think we should. I once completed an entire biology exam using only what I learned about ducks from DuckTales. I failed college. Like
The entire test just said, woo, on it.
Okay, what college had a biology exam that was only about ducks? That's my question.
yeah, Tom, I'm not sure if Phil Robertson U is accredited, sir. I hate to break it to you on the air.
But no, it's no problem. Again, I failed. I don't have the degree. So
Phil Robertson, it's just like, it's a crocodile too. Yeah.
But life is like a hurricane. It seems unfair. Anyway, as we're saying, are we relying on folk tales? Or?
No, actually, we got lucky on this one. It turns out that hot women who kill people with swords isn't just a modern fetish. And a couple of Roman writers talked about her as well, most notably Tacitus, who would have actually been a contemporary, at least to some degree. Also, Cassius Dio, he was writing almost 100 years after the fact, but he described Boudica as, quote, tall with tawny hair hanging below her waist with a harsh voice and piercing glare, end quote. And he also said that she was, quote, possessed of greater intelligence than often belongs to women. End quote.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What year did he tweet this out? What was that?
I like this guy, Cassius, the king of the backhanded compliment.
Yeah, right?
I don't know. I wouldn't even insult her. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, God.
So I should point out at this point that the Celtic tribes were way less sexist than the Romans of the time. And now this is often overstated by hippies and women's studies professors.
Yep, that's kind of a weird distinction, but we'll let it go.
Okay, one is a subgroup of the other, yeah. But
right, fine.
But societies that rely less on private ownership of land tend to be a hell of a lot less patriarchal.
And in that moment, all the women who listened to our show became anarcho-capitalists.
I'm not sure that's going to happen. But yeah, so yeah, I don't think that word means what you think it means. So the fact that all the primary sources are Roman probably undercuts the hell out of Boudica as a historical figure. If the Celts, what I'm trying to say is, if the Celts were writing shit down at the time, we would probably be able to find somebody willing to praise her intelligence without tacking on, for a girl.
The Celts also had an amazing Pinterest board. Not a lot of people know that about the Celts.
Oh,
totally true.
Please,
Totally
Cecil,
true.
everybody knows it. You know why? Because they won't stop showing you their fucking homemade centerpieces. All right? Yeah. Oh, wow, we get it. You made that fucking twig sculpture thing on your fucking mantle yourself. Great job. You saved $11. You spent 6 hours of your fucking life on it. That's a real win. Yeah, good. A job. You could have bought 100 of those with a job.
I think it's actually less sexist if we don't have women as topics for the show. There's probably a better policy. All right, well, Noah, what do we know about Boudica's early life?
Nothing at all.
Glad it's not just me.
Okay, what about her later
Nothing
life?
either.
And show.
We were trying to get ahead for Australia, guys. We didn't
What
have
about
a
her
whole
afterlife? Do we know anything about her afterlife?
No, so we don't. She doesn't show up in the historical record until she marries the king of the Iceni, a fellow named Prosotagus. Now, he ruled over a kingdom that encompassed modern-day Norfolk and some of Suffolk and Cambridgeshire, so an area about 5,300 square kilometers. Probably seemed like a hell of an accomplishment at the time, but to keep things in perspective, that's, in the grand scheme of things, like being the king of Duluth.
The king of Duluth just spends his time knighting snowplows. I dub thee Sir Push-A-Lot.
No, leave it on. I had to look up Duluth on a map. And then I threw away the map. And then I threw away my garbage can. And then I puked on them both and I set it on fire. Duluth.
Escalated quickly.
Yeah. Tom's neighbors are having a weird week.
Honey, come here. You got to check this out. I put a map of Duluth on Tom's windshield. This car's going to explode.
So now back in 43 CE, the Romans invaded southern Britain under Claudius of Claudius. And when they did, the Iceni originally allied with them because, fuck those slightly more southern Britons. But as was so often the case, once they saw what allying with the Romans looked like in practice, they changed their mind. Specifically when Roman governor Publius Astorius Scapula decided that only Romans were allowed to own weapons.
So to combat this, they started a powerful sword lobby, right? Is that?
Well, actually, yeah, they kind of did.
It's the only smart thing to do. The only way to be safe from swords is if everyone has a sword. More swords, bristling, porcupined out with swords.
Just a picture of Boudica with a sword that's like way bigger than her entire body standing in front of a Chick-fil-A. A ridiculous, huge soda.
Her truck has nuts on the back. Yeah.
Boudica strikes me as the kind of person that would have nuts on the back of her truck, not brass ones. That guy that flirted with her. So at this point, the Iceni rebel against the Romans, but they lose because, only Romans were allowed to have weapons. So
yeah, okay. Seems not really well thought out, right? Like, hey, let's rebel. Okay, but what if they hit us with those swords? Oh no, that would just be unfair. They're not going to do. Oh fuck! Really?
Now, fortunately for the Iceni, though, at this time there were so many other uprisings going on that Astorius basically had to settle for giving their leadership a stern talking to and a timeout before rushing off to put down some other rebellion.
Oh, it's like a single mom then, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Nah, I didn't hear anything about white wine and pills in the afternoon, so.
Okay.
Well, then you should read the note I left all of you.
Wine, pills, and single mom's party. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Now, despite his shaky relationship with the Romans after the rebellion, Prosotagus was eager to show them deference because he was old and his wife was young. So he decided to bequeath his kingdom to the Roman emperor and his two daughters, like together, so they could, draw a line down the middle of it like an 80s sitcom, and the Romans couldn't touch any of his daughters' half, I guess.
And thus was born the ancient law of I'm not touching you.
Just like a bunch of Romans in the back seat, the driver yelling, I will turn this chariot around if you can't be quiet.
All right, so needless to say, this arrangement didn't work out super well. Instead of the respectful deference that Prosotagus intended to convey, his move was seen as an invitation to come take all his shit. So that's what they did when he died. The regional leadership trumped up some charges related to money that the emperor had loaned to somebody tangentially related to their household, and with that excuse, they rolled into Iceni, pillaged the kingdom, enslaved a bunch of its people, confiscated the lands of all the nobles, and just for good measure, they lashed the queen and raped her two daughters.
Oh, and they took her email server, too. They did that.
Jesus Christ, I thought the payday loan stores were a little rough about collections.
Oh, Jesus.
This is where they actually get their playbook, is from Boudica's Rebellion.
All right, so I'm trying to guess how this ends. Boudica and her crew, they take over a birding station and have a really big dildo party.
It's Roman. I feel like if there was a dildo party, they would have mentioned it, right? These are Roman sources. Now, speaking of that being Roman sources, I should point out that they wrote this stuff and they still basically had to admit that we just rolled in there and raped those kids.
What?
We were such assholes. Right now, so you'd think that they try to drum something up and make it seem like they weren't the bad guys, but they didn't. Now, part of this is because this happened under Emperor Nero, and that guy was dead 10 minutes before people were writing down what an asshole he was. But it's also partly because there's no fucking question that they were the bad guys from the beginning to the end of this one, and they were trying to present it as a moral lesson as much as a historical epic.
Hey, Gladius, about to write that part about the enslaving and raping thing that we did. Maybe we should try to rebrand that a little. No, that was our bad. Just write it real small in the margins. No one will ever. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, or counterpoint.
Okay, this is going to be fun.
Thank you. The Romans saw a future that consisted of writing dictators with nuclear weapons stern letters about starving their people to death and just figured, hey, maybe no half measures.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was. Now, there's quite a bit of blame shifting in the sources because, let's face it, by the end of this story, a bunch of Romans are going to get their asses kicked by a girl, and nobody from that day wanted that tacked onto their historical reputation. So Suetonius, who was the Roman governor of Britain at the time, tends to get a pass on account of him being off fighting some war in North Wales when this all started. So Cassius Dio pins the blame for the massacre on Seneca, who was just some rich motherfucker who had the ear of the emperor and wanted all of Icenia's shit.
Ugh. When will the rich ever get a break?
Right?
Well, according to our now anarcho-capitalist female listeners, right after they line up against the wall.
Well, people need to understand that rich people are the massacre creators. I get what you're saying. You have to let the massacre or the blood won't trickle down.
All right, but regardless of whose fault it ultimately was, the Iceni were rightfully pissed, and they weren't like going, do you think it was more Suetonius or do you think it was more Seneca? No, they were pissed at all the fucking Romans, as were the surrounding Celts. They were all starting to chafe under Roman rule anyway, and when the Romans proved themselves not to be above publicly raping their princesses, even the folks on the fence were willing to forget about Boudica's emails and take up arms.
Yeah, it was so much better when the rapes were private. Just classier.
That's not exactly.
That's what you were getting at, right?
Sorry, I'm just nostalgic for the bygone days when your guy as a rapist converted the fence sitters. So seems
Oh, shit.
really nice.
All right, well, now I'm
Got to
depressed.
wipe with their hand.
So many Jill Stein voters.
So, yeah, for the civilization of 60 CE, if only we could somehow get that back. So, as the Romans were rushing off with their ill-gotten gold to quell the latest uprising, Boudica reached out to neighboring tribes and started amassing an army. Now, this is definitely apocryphal, but I want to offer up the speech that Tacitus has Boudica giving her assembled Celtic army. Quote, "It is not as a woman descended from noble ancestry, but as one of the people that I am avenging lost freedom, my scourged body, and the outraged chastity of my daughters. This is a woman's resolve. As for men, they may live and be slaves." End quote.
Shit.
And instead of dropping a mic, she then released a rabbit from her dress.
What?
So some form of
I
divination.
read that like 7 times.
Apparently, yeah. No, that was it. Like that was, then the rabbit turned the right way. Anyway, that because of the way that the rabbit turned, they decided that their first target was going to be the Roman fortress of Camalodunum.
I mean, it always turns to someone's right.
I'm sorry, Noah. That kind of kills the moment. We do this not for man, but for freedom, Bunny.
Just got to keep the whole speech short because the rabbit's starting to fucking chafe in there.
Still, where did the carrot come from?
Is that a rabbit in your pocket?
All right. On that note, we're going to take a quick break for a little apropos of nothing.
Oh, it's apropos now. We're getting all fancy with our rebellion. You know,
Maybe that could be my thing. Maybe I'm the guy who says words fancy.
No, that's not going to be your thing, man.
Okay, where are we going next?
Yeah, I want to pillage.
Where's Boudica? She'll tell us what to do.
Oh, here she comes now. I would be able to tell that tawny waist-length hair anywhere.
Oh, Boudica is busy, but she sent me.
Eli, you're not even an officer. Take the wig off. What are you doing?
I'm not Eli. I'm Commander Nipples.
Stop. Okay, stop. Just get Boudica out here so we can get on with the war. What are you doing?
Well, I'm here to show you our plan of attack. First, we're going to encircle the 2 mountains.
Oh, gross. Don't grab your moobs like that.
Then we're going to make the 2 commanders at the top of the mountain stand up straight and tall.
I quit the pillaging. And we're back. When we last left our heroine, she was rallying troops to march on camel something.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Yeah, so Boudica actually chose her first target well. The Iceni's chief ally in the rebellion was a neighboring tribe called the Trinovantes, and they were still a little pissed off at the Romans for, taking over their capital city and turning it into a Roman fort. It also didn't help that the Roman legionaries that were there were kind of notorious for mistreating the locals, and also they had erected a giant statue of Claudius and forced the locals to pay for it. So Camilla Dunham was something of a focal point for Celtic rage in the area.
Yeah, well, Claudius was so much more than a slave owner, though. I mean, let's not erase history.
It also doesn't help that the statue they made was also erect. Yeah. That's a bit of a fuck you.
No, that's
I'm picturing a smaller statue of a Celtic lady as the fluffer.
Yeah. We're going to build a big, beautiful statue, and the Celts are going to pay for it.
So they march on the Roman stronghold, and despite a small contingent of reinforcements arriving at the last minute to defend it, Boudica and her rebels fucking level the place. Now, the siege lasted a couple of days. Some people locked themselves in a temple, whatever, but the battle was won in a matter of hours. And according to archaeologists, they systematically demolished every square inch of the settlement.
Yeah, except the statue. The Romans protected it with the tiki torches. They stood around it, formed a ring.
They weren't part of that. They were just trolling the fort.
Oh, right.
Whose Appian way? Our Appian way.
Now, when the Romans heard about this, they rightly freaked the fuck out. They immediately dispatched the Spanish 9th Legion to retake the outpost, and despite their overwhelming edge in military discipline and tactics, and the fact that the Celts burned the city down rather than using its defensive structures to their advantage, Boudica's army fucking destroyed them. The infantry was wiped out altogether, and only their leadership and a handful of cavalry escaped alive.
Wait, we got to go back. They went to retake a fort that had already been demolished down to the square inch. How do you convince the troops of this one? They can take our lives, but they'll never take our rubble.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Seems like you could just find any old rubble and declare victory, right? Just in an open field with some scorch marks. Yeah, we did it. Go us.
Well, to be fair, I believe the Legion was, massacred before they got there, to see that it was just rubble. But they would have been so disappointed, like if one guy makes it all the way there. Oh, fuck.
Well, they should have called first.
So, yeah, right. Or just checked on fucking Facebook or something. So
they update their profile picture, just rubble.
That's safe in rubble. Checking in.
Uh-oh, his relationship with the fort is complicated. That's not good.
So it's about now that Suetonius, the absentee governor of the province, hears about this whole rebellion thing. So he breaks off his engagement in Wales and hurries his army down Watling Street, which, when I say it like that, it sounds like his big concern are going to be traffic and tolls. But at that time, this is hostile territory filled with rebellious Celtic tribes. And one of those rebellious Celtic tribes just burned a major city to the ground. And that's got the rest of them in a pretty burny mood.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Cleveland. I got it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is Watling Street the most beautiful city on earth and my future home if my wife actually loved me? Yeah, I didn't hear that Watling Street has the amazing second largest theater district in the United States and a baseball team whose mascot is both a hate symbol and victorious a lot of the time. So yeah, Watling Street sounds great.
Also, if we're naming cities full of dead bodies that burn to the ground because of stupidity, pretty sure that's Chicago, not Cleveland.
You said city, not river.
All right, guys. All right. Like, if we're gonna use a shithole city, let's just use St. Louis, and then no one will be upset.
Fuck St. Louis.
Of course, because the people in St. Louis are like, yeah.
What are they going to do? Afford phones and download our podcast?
So,
fuck St. Louis.
Of course, Suetonius isn't going to Cleveland or Camilla Dunham. People don't methodically destroy cities if they want to occupy them. So he knows that they're already going to be heading towards their next target, and he's got a pretty good idea where that's going to be: London. Only this is Roman times, so it had a more Roman-y sounding name, and thus Londinium.
Yeah, the elemental symbol for Londinium is just 2 pips and a Cheerio.
It's an army of chimney sweeps and adorable street urchins just showed up.
Well, they perform like that. So at this point, Londinium is a pretty new settlement still. It's only been a city of any kind for about 5 years, but already it's turned into an important seat of Roman occupation. It was a thriving commercial port. It was full of Roman officials, and it was the next logical symbol of Roman power. It was also not remotely prepared to fend off Boudica's army. So Suetonius sizes up his forces and decides that he should bravely chicken out and abandon Londinium altogether. So he has his forces evacuate the city at Gladius Point, and a couple of days later, Boudica's army shows up, burns the fucking thing to the ground. In fact, apparently, when they dig up old coins and shit from that era, you can tell the ones that are pre-60 CE by the layer of red debris from this fire.
No, mistaken. Roman fire doesn't melt gold coins. False flag operation.
And of course, you know what they say about rage-burned first-century Roman settlements.
Is a penny earned?
If there's grass on the field, play ball.
No.
Don't stick your dick in crazy.
Hammocks are bad for your back.
Actually, Cecil, that one they do say, but the other three not so much. But no, the one I was going for is that they always come in threes. So with the ashes of Londinium, yeah, you'll get it next time, Eli. So with the ashes of Londinium in the rearview mirror, they headed down the road to Verulamium, which is, I guess, modern St. Albans, apparently, and they sacked that one too.
Jeez, this is like a series of G7 summits.
This is actually starting to me to feel like how my dad resolved conflict. Oh, you're not getting along? Fine. One of you now lives outside for the next 6 months. Yeah.
Okay, if you can't be nice to your baby sister, then I cut you both in half? How does it go? Like a smart Jewish guy? I feel like I'm doing it wrong.
Dad?
Now,
are you there?
Now, I don't want this episode to be entirely a rah-rah for Boudica. So I want to take a second and emphasize what we mean by sack the city. Now, Boudica is definitely the hero of this story, but there were no good guys back then. So it's important to let everybody know that in destroying the three settlements, the army killed some 70 to 80,000 people by modern estimates. Right? Most of those people were not Roman soldiers. And they weren't interested in taking slaves or prisoners. They were interested in killing, mostly by burning and crucifying. In fact, according to Dio's account, the noble women were impaled on spikes and their tits were cut off.
What?
And sewn to their mouths.
What? Okay. Sounds bad. I'm not saying that's how I want to go, but a tit in my mouth impaling something isn't not how I want to go.
I'm not ruling that out.
This woman-on-woman violence just has to stop, I think. I think that's the problem.
Thank you. Someone had to say it, Cecil.
You guys think that like the great-great-great-grandmother of one of the guys on the General Slocum turns to another woman on the crucifix and she's like, okay, you gotta admit this is silly looking. Like, I know it's not fun, but it's funny for us to like, come on.
And one guy who has to like do that forgets the instructions. He's like, fuck, which way did the nipples go? She said, I forget. Did we land on suckling or mouth titty? I feel like Buddhists would be so pissed if I get this wrong.
Now, you know, of course, we don't know if this happened. All these gruesome details come from Roman sources, right? So even if they were willing to admit that they were wrong, they certainly weren't above embellishing the barbarity of their opponents and making them seem less human than they really were. But we can say with certainty that the army wasn't like nice to those people or anything. Right. They killed the fuck out of some non-combatants.
They had drone strikes back then too?
Yeah, they did, but they were like really low tech. They're just multicolored birds and slingshots.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those pigs raped those birds. Just little known fact. That was the problem.
Huh.
Only little known fact to people who refuse to read my fan fiction. Heath.
Dude, are you serious? It was 191 pages long. It's ridiculous.
So is the Dubliners.
Okay. Well, that explains why you write in one giant run-on sentence with no punctuation.
Now, it's worth asking at this point of the story, like, what the point of all of this is, right? And by that, I mean the show. Why are we still doing this, guys? No, it's not what this is.
Do not open that box. Go back. No.
All right, I will go back. And it's worth asking at this point what the point of all of this was, right? Because, look, there's growing dissension in the ranks about what their next move is. Romans come in, rape a couple of princesses, whip a grieving widow, queen, and it's pretty easy to stir up enough collective rage to burn down a couple of settlements and shit. But they don't have the kind of army or logistics that can mount a sustained campaign and actually drive out the occupying Romans. On top of that, the army is a hodgepodge of Celtic tribes, many with their own long-standing animosities against each other. There's no question that Boudica was an inspiring leader, but there was a ton of question about where she was leading them.
Typical. Where do you want to pillage? Oh, I don't care. You pick. Okay, well, fine. How's Londinium?
Oh, God.
No, I don't like their tit mouths. Okay, how about chrysantheminium or whatever? No, we pillaged them last week. My God, woman, make up your mind.
I'm not giving you the silent treatment. I just don't have anything to say about pillaging right now. Really? You're all done talking? I'm not going to hear about this later. Boudica. Don't do this.
I don't believe you when you say it's fine. I don't believe you. I just don't believe you. Keep saying it's fine. I don't think it's fine.
Monogamy sounds amazing. You guys have stuff to talk to forever. You guys just forever. It's interesting forever.
So, moving on. So, while they're busy unstacking the bricks of Verulamium, Suetonius is amassing troops. He puts together 2 legions and all the auxiliaries he can muster, about 10,000 men altogether. Now, the ancient accounts have Boudica's army numbering like a 250,000 at this point, but that is definitely bullshit. All the old sources exaggerated this shit of the bad guy army, especially, when their side was outnumbered. Still, historians seem to agree that Suetonius was crazy outnumbered by the rebels at this point.
You can't really blame him for inflating the numbers, though. Everyone does that when talking with women, right?
Absolutely. I'm like, yeah, I'm 8, maybe 900 pounds.
I think you're doing that wrong.
Yeah.
You're doing that wrong. It's more like, see all this white area in the background? That makes it look smaller. The size of the crowd. It's a bigger crowd. The black guy, a lot of people think the black guy had bigger. It's not. It's the white rubber.
Now, outnumbered or not, you still have a band of loosely affiliated tribal fighters going up against one of the ancient world's all-time best armies here, right? So let's not make this a David and Goliath story the wrong way. The Romans have a shit ton of advantages here. They have better weapons, better armor, better training, and better tactics. Now, also, Suetonius knew that Boudica would be coming up Watling Street, so he placed his forces in a narrow clearing, which gave him a geographical advantage as well. Thick woods on either side of the clearing made it almost impossible for Boudica's army to flank them, even with their vast superiority in numbers.
I'm digging the way you're setting this up, but man, I just could really use sort of some measurements of the battlefield here, like how big it was, maybe in meters. If you could do it in meters,
how long does it take to jog it in a square?
Okay, no, I'm starting to understand. This is about angles, not size. I'm taking notes, feeling better.
Yeah, girl, you like that secant? You like that secant? Acute, obtuse.
Jeez. So Boudica rides her chariot along the lines with her defiled daughters at her side. She delivers a big "but they'll never take our freedom" speech. And then the Celts rush into battle. And the Romans stand still and throw heavy javelins at them while they do this, which is pretty damn effective.
Never bring a Celt to a javelin fight. Yeah. Good advice.
Mel Gibson and Boudica is just him screaming, "I'll burn goddamn Londinium to the ground, but blow me first." The fuck?
You guys remember when Mel Gibson was in a movie about using mind reading to trick ladies into fucking him?
Yeah.
Chicken Run?
Yes, Eli. Chicken Run. That's what I meant.
I gotta rewatch that movie.
Yeah. I want to rewatch it with you so bad now. All right, so from there, the Romans made a slow advance in a wedge formation and started plowing through Boudica's army. Eventually, it turned into a slaughter that even the most ardent rebel couldn't deny, so the Britons turned to flee. Unfortunately for them, Celts had this really fucked up habit of putting their families in a big circle at the back of the battlefield with orders to kill anyone that they saw running away. So that's what happened.
The Celts killed their own families?
Yeah, it's like a giant game of Red Rover with hyper-realistic red.
Yeah, exactly.
What? Stop. I'm walking sideways. You're allowed to go sideways. I'm not going back. I'm going sideways. Great. I'm following you sideways. Mom, you're embarrassing me. You're embarrassing me.
Now, there's a lot of question about what becomes of Boudica after all of this. Not only do the sources conflict here, but sometimes they conflict with themselves. So either she poisoned herself, fell on her sword, got sick and died of old age, or died from being lazy. Even the exact location of her defeat is disputed. The one thing we can say for certain is that by now, she's definitely dead.
All right, Noah, if you had to summarize what you've learned in one sentence, What would it be?
When Romans come across a woman with undeniable historical significance, they're still only willing to write about what men did in response to her. Apparently.
Terribly true.
Okay, are you ready for a quiz from the panel?
I am ready.
All right, let me go first. Boudica actually lived through the battles. This is a little known fact, and went on to retire and write novels. Which one is her most famous novel? A, it's a book about poetry on the Woad. It's a famous poetry book. B, Deflowers in the Celtics. C, Confessions of a Chopaholic. Or D, Teat Slay Grudge.
That was definitely. I've read 3 of the 4, so I can't really say about Deflowers in the Cat. But I'm pretty sure it was Teat Slay Grudge.
It definitely was Teat Slay Grudge. Absolutely.
I was pretty sure.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give it a whirl here. Like any good revenge tale, there's a lesson to be learned. What similar stories share the same moral? A, sour rapes. B, rapes of wrath.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
C, revenge of Planet of the Rapes.
Okay.
Or D, Thelma and Louise.
Yeah.
Well, there's only one of these I feel comfortable saying, so I'm gonna go with B, rapes of wrath. See, you thought I was gonna go D, and I switched it out on you at the last second.
It's weird that Tom didn't have a question this week. You know, he does such a good job on these, and it's weird that he didn't have one. All right, Eli, you're next.
All right. It's obvious that
Rape.
It's obvious that what. That's a weird screensaver you guys have. I don't like to give notes on air, but now it's obvious that what Boudica's army lacked was a super cool nickname. So
I'm sorry, wait, Tom, how much would I have to pay you to turn that into your ringtone?
yes, at your big fancy job, you're just like, gentlemen, we need to buy all the gold in rape. I'll get that in a minute. This is pretty important. Actually, Tom, why don't you fucking get that? No. I'm making a point here. We need to buy stocks in the rape. I'm telling you to get that. Look, is this about me saying ma'am earlier? No, it's not anymore.
It is now, actually.
All right. So it's obvious what this army lacked was a super cool nickname. So should they have been called A, the Non-Mendables, B, the Vijay Team, or C, Charlie's Vandals?
That is genius. The last one, it's just amazing. Charlie's Vandals is perfect.
Yes.
Except for this was the British
It's
Isles, so
excellent.
I'm going to go with B, the
It's
Vijay
excellent.
Team.
It was Charlie's Vandals.
But they're Britons. That doesn't make any sense.
Nay, small
Because
tribe.
they're
Yeah.
old-timey.
Didn't think it all the way through. Eli wins.
Yeah, and I choose, which means I get to choose next week's essayist, and I choose my best friend in the whole world, Cecil.
All right, well, for Cecil, Eli, Noah, and Tom, I'm Heath. Thanking you all for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week, and by then, Cecil will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can find more tragically incorrect pizza assessment with Tom and Cecil on cognitive dissonance. Shouldn't even be using the word. That is our word. That is our, you could say pizza, whatever. Or if you find their taste in pizza to be wildly racist, you could listen to people who know a pizza from a preemie calzone on The Scathing Atheist, The Skeptocrat, and God Awful Movies. And if you'd like to help keep this show going, you can make a per-episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, listen to past episodes, connect with us on social media, or take a look at the show notes, be sure to check out citationpod.com.
Okay, Boudica, the battle is won. We are victorious.
Excellent. Now round up all the survivors from the town.
Yes, my queen.
Kill the men
Absolutely, my queen.
and sew the women's tits to their mouths.
Yes, my queen. Sorry. Sew the women's tits to their mouths?
To their mouths, yes, it'll strike fear into the hearts of all who follow.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. But question, but practically, how do I do that?
What do you mean, how do you do that?
Sorry, do I put it facing in or honestly,
it sounds a lot more fearsome when you don't, when you don't really break it down into details like this.
Sure. Should I still do it?
No, you know what? The moment is kind of ruined now. Maybe you shouldn't.
Sorry. Hey, what if we sewed their tits to their eyes? Like googly eyes.
No, you know what? Just drop it. Just drop it.
Okay. Sorry.
This is your before and after story, where your first steps towards a new life-changing career begin. Southeastern College can take you there. We offer in-demand hybrid and online programs with hands-on training, led by in-field career professionals, and career services to put you on the path to a rewarding and fulfilling future. This is where your transformation begins. Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sec.edu to get started.